You're watching Taste of Victory.
The Digimon Adventure 02 love continues today with an Imperialdramon deck profile. A lot of people are building their decks to beat Imperialdramon because they are predicting it to be the absolute best deck in the meta alongside Motomiya. Imperialdramon is an OTK deck in the truest sense of the word, being one of the most aggressive decks we have seen in the format yet. It tries to get in as many security checks as it can in one turn, with many of its unsuspending effects on different Digimon, and also abusing hidden potential discovered to take advantage of the DNA Digivolution mechanic, which lets it swing again. And this is how it tries to combo into many swings to OTK in one turn. It's incredibly aggressive and your games will end fast, but you gotta be careful with timing your swings, lest you die to something in security. Let's go ahead and start with our rookie lineup like usual and make our way back up. Did you prefer Imperialdramon Fighter Mode or Dragon Mode in the anime? And let me know how you prefer the deck layout, like this, going up and adding cards as I go along, or just having it all laid out on screen at once. First up are our eggs. In this deck, we are actually going to prioritize DemiVeemon, a change for a blue deck. It has when attacking, once per turn, if this Digimon has jamming, trigger, draw 1. Since you see that we're running 4 of the jamming Veemon, and later you'll see we have 4 of the jamming ExVeemon, there's very good odds of DemiVeemon being live in this deck, which is why we max it out instead of having to rely on our opponent to do something to be able to trigger Upamon. However, you do want 5 eggs in case it somehow goes into the grand game, so our 5th egg is Upamon since it has that really easy to meet draw 1. That will take care of our Digi-Eggs. After that, we move on to our rookies. Jamming Veemon lets you be really aggressive in the early game by swinging and not worrying about dying, and then you get to Digivolve over it and potentially unsuspend because of Ken and Davis. We have only 2 copies of the new Veemon from Booster Set 8 that searches for a 2-color blue card. The reason for this is that a lot of our most important cards in this deck aren't actually 2-colored. However, they are free type, so we are maxing out on the other searcher over this one in favor of not bottom decking those cards because it just feels bad sometimes. It still digs deep though, revealing the top 4, and a search is a search, so we do run 2 copies of it at least to buff up that searcher lineup. Instead of running it maxed out, we have 2 of the X1 Veemon from Classic Collection. Your turn, once per turn, when this Digimon becomes unsuspended during your main phase, gain 1 memory. So this has synergy with a couple of cards in the deck. We have Paildramon that'll unsuspend itself, giving it that +1 memory, same with Fighter Mode, and same when you Digivolve this into a 2-color Digimon and tap Ken and Davis. That 1 memory could be the difference between passing turn for lethal or choking your opponent at 1 memory if you need to in the early game, so it's a nice option that I like to experiment with. Definitely feel free to play with this ratio, however, if you're not finding yourself a fan of the X1 Veemon. Next, we got Starter Deck Veemon. This has, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, trigger draw 1 when attacking Inheritable. We don't care about the main effects as we are not running all 4 Lighdramon, so we won't warp to it. But in the early game, that extra draw is huge, especially if it pairs with DemiVeemon. And finally, we have the Veemon that only reveals top 3, but it adds 1 card with 3 in its types among them to your hand. This grabs a lot of our Digimon, including some of our most important enablers like Stingmon and ExVeemon, so we max this out for our search. That takes care of the rookie lineup, all Veemon themed, and now we got our level 4 champions. First up is ExVeemon from Classic Collection. This has jamming, so it lets you be aggressive early game, not having to worry about being deleted by any DP in the security, and then it has an Inheritable that's really amazing for this deck. Your turn, while this Digimon has Imperialdramon in its name or free in its type, it gains jamming. So this gives our Paildramon jamming and also our Imperialdramons. All of our top end gets jamming off of this, which is really important with how much it unsuspends and swings. You really don't want anything to go wrong with those Paildramon swings and potentially blow you out by not being able to have an Imperialdramon Dragon Mode follow-up. It has so much great usage because not only could you be aggressive with it into security, it also has an amazing Inheritable for your top end. Next up, we got Stingmon. When you would play this card from your hand, if you have a blue Digimon in play, reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. It can Digivolve from a green or blue for 2. And then when attacking, if you have a blue Digimon in play, draw 1. So you can hard slam this if you have Davis out, and DNA Digivolve into your Paildramon, and every time Paildramon unsuspends and swings again, you will get the draw 1 because it's not once per turn. This is an important enabler to make sure you can just go ahead and start Digivolving right away into your Paildramon, and also keep up hand advantage and dig for your pieces that aren't searchable, like some of our ultimates. After that is Lighdramon. It has Armor Purge, Digivolves for 3, but if you Digivolve from Veemon, it is 2 cost, and then when Digivolving, suspend one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. If you go second in the mirror, this can be useful to snipe your opponent's Veemon or whatever they played hard slammed first turn or even second turn to stop them from being able to DNA Digivolve and force them to have the Stingmon to be able to DNA Digivolve next turn. This is also talked about before on this channel, how it's really important to be able to snipe Gatomons for Motomiya matchup. This is definitely the flex spot of any of the champions. You could run it for like something else like the starter deck ExVeemon if you want a blue Digimon that also plays itself for 3 cost, but I think 4 is good to make sure you see it in those bad matchups like Motomiya so you can just snipe their more important pieces. And that'll round up our champion lineup, so now we'll go to our ultimates. So we have a low count on ultimates in this deck. As you see, we only have 6. The reason for that is because we have a lot of search and we also have a lot of draw power because of Stingmon, plus other cards that we'll be adding into this list later on. So I think it's pretty likely that you see these guys and you can afford to play a little bit more greedy. First up, we have Paildramon, which is honestly one of the backbones of this deck. It has DNA Digivolution from a level 4 green and level 4 blue Digimon for free, and then when DNA Digivolving, return one of your opponent's Digimon with 6000 DP or less to the bottom of its owner's deck, and then when attacking, once returned, unsuspend this Digimon. So it's really good threshold for removal in this format, and then also it lets you unsuspend and get more swings in. Paired with Stingmon, that is huge, and then you have a Dragon Mode follow-up over this, so it's a really good aggressive tool option. Being one of the most aggressive parts of the deck, we have to run it at 4. For our second ultimate, we have Kimeramon. Now this is definitely a spicier choice. You could definitely run DemiVeemon as you want as well, because that ability to stun something forever for the next turn is definitely useful. But let's see why we're running Kimeramon. It has a DNA Digivolution for free from 2 level 4 Digimon of any color, and then when Digivolving, you may place 1 level 5 or lower Digimon card from your trash under this Digimon as a Digivolution card. Then up to 4 of your opponent's Digimon get minus 1000 TP for each of this Digimon's colors until the end of your opponent's next turn. Your turn, this Digimon is treated as also having the colors of its Digivolution cards, while if Digimon has 4 or more colors, it gets plus 4000 DP. So we don't have this deck built in a way that it will give you the plus 4000 every turn. You could cut down on Lighdramon maybe to put in another armor of a different color to be able to have enough targets for that threshold. However, the bigger priority is just getting that minus 3000 from having 3 colors underneath it. Because the biggest natural megas are going to be 13,000 at max like Mostamon, so just that 3k threshold is all we want to hit off of this. It minuses by 3000 DP, and then they're at 10k, maybe less, and you go into fighter mode and able to bounce anything. Or if it even comes down to it, if you only have Dragon Mode in hand, you're probably able to swing over it by that point with minus 3000 DP. So Kimeramon is amazing removal utility, and there's definitely an argument to cut down on Lighdramon or some other champion to be able to make room for a different color to get that plus 4000 DP effect live as well. Yeah, but Kimeramon has amazing synergy with fighter mode to bounce a lot of stuff, which is why we're running it over DemiVeemon. Unfortunately, it cannot be grabbed off of any of our searchers, which is why the draw power from cards like the starter deck Veemon and from Stingmon is really important. This is definitely a late game card, so it's not too bad if you don't see it, because you could draw off of Paildramon to dig for it, so there's no rush to get to it. But you could definitely play around with the ratios to go up to 3 if you feel that is good. It's just this build is making room for options to be able to help with consistency. And then we got our megas. First is the starter deck Imperialdramon. This card is just insane. It's absolutely crazy. When Digivolving, you may play 1 level 4 or lower blue Digimon card and or 1 level 4 or lower green Digimon card from the sources without paying their memory cost. This card immediately sets you up for another DNA Digivolution next turn. If you go into this with Hidden Potential discovered, it sets up another one this turn and lets you potentially OTK. There is so much value this card gains you for 4, it's amazing. You have to run it at 2, and you could even definitely play around with the ratios to up this to 3, it's really powerful. After that, we have Fighter Mode. When Digivolving, return one of your opponent's Digimon with 10,000 DP or less to its owner's hand, which is the effect that we are running Kimeramon to synergize with, and then when attacking once per turn, if you have a blue card in this Digimon Digivolution card, suspend one of your Digimon. If a green card is in this Digimon Digivolution card, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. So you could swing at security, suspend something, and then swing at that to clear your opponent's board and get rid of a potential threat with its amazing 13,000 DP on Imperialdramon Fighter Mode. This card offers a lot of utility because it can remove, it can suspend stuff and take care of them, it can double swing your opponent's security and potentially lead to an OTK. You could definitely cut down to it and even justify 1 copy, since we are going to be running the option Megadeth in this, which kind of has similar utility, but your ability to push for game because this thing can Digivolve over Dragon Mode for only 2 memory is really important. Next, we have our options. First off, one of the big inclusions you see is Hidden Potential discovered. It is 0, and then the next time one of your green Digimon Digivolves this turn, you may suspend one of your Digimon to reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 5. So this lets you Digivolve into any of your Megas for completely free, and in this deck that is ridiculous because even Kimeramon, for example, if he has a green source underneath, will be considered a green Digimon, so even Kimeramon can Digivolve into Imperialdramon Dragon Mode for free, and then you get 2 Digimon played for free because of Hidden Potential discovered, go into another DNA Digivolution and start swinging again because DNA Digimon do not have summoning sickness and can attack the turn they come into play. This card opens up so much OTK potential and it's just unbelievably dumb. There's a reason this card was limited to 1, you absolutely need to run it for huge OTKs. After that, we got Blue Memory Boost. It is a deep search revealing the top 4 cards of your deck, and then you can delay it next turn for 2 memory. The 2 memory is really important to make sure you have enough DP to be able to DNA Digivolve by playing out another Digimon, and then searching is always great. However, we do have some really important all green Digimon like Stingmon, the Visible Bottom deck, and like Kimeramon, who's all white, so we only run it at 2 because there is a little bit of that anti-synergy. And then Hammer Spark is just Hammer Spark. It gets you 1 free memory, which can be really important to help you make big plays. After that is the new option introduced in the Imperialdramon starter deck, Mega Death. For only 5 memories, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to its owner's hand. So this is non-destruction removal, non-DP minusing removal, which only leaves bounce protection, and a lot of Digimon don't have effects that protect it from returning to hand or deck. There's a very limited number of copies that do, and some of them rely on options giving them that protection. So Mega Death is really efficient, strong removal. 2 is great, but you can absolutely justify going up to 3 copies, and that is up to you how you're going to fit that space in. There could definitely be made an argument for Ice Wall as well, if you maybe want to go down on a Hammer Spark or a Memory Boost, maybe even a Rookie as you're running 14. You could maybe justify Ice Wall in there, but I think for our cheeky one-of, we're going to stick with Hidden Potential Discovered because of the crazy OTK potential it offers. And finally, to end our list, we have our 6 Tamers. 3 of them will be Davis because he guarantees you 3 memory to make sure you have enough to make important plays, and then he also searches your deck, and since half of our deck is green, it is very likely he will be grabbing 2 cards off his search effect. Really good utility. Then after him, we have Kennen Davis. He guarantees you a memory gain as well, but that is at the start of your main phase if you have a green or a blue Digimon out. It's great because you can move out of Raising Area at the start of your main phase and still get the memory. Really helpful card. And then its effect is your turn. When one of your Digimon digivolves into a Digimon with 2 or more colors, you may suspend this Tamer to unsuspend that Digimon. So this plays into the OTK strategy by getting you yet another unsuspend, and if you hit a potential discover something, you can unsuspend and still swing with it because of this Tamer if it is a dual color Digimon. There is a lot of synergy for unsuspending and trying to OTK your opponent's security here, and it's a very aggro deck. Kennen Davis does stack with multiple copies of itself. It stacks with multiple copies of Davis, so it gives you the huge memory thresholds you're going to need to maybe OTK in 1 turn. And that is going to be the Imperialdramon list. This is just such an aggro deck. It is so fast. There's definitely some counters in it, like Mastamon has good answers with its strong security, and Black X Antibody has really powerful options and defensive tools like big blockers. But if you can set up as fast as Imperialdramon can and rush them down, sometimes it won't matter and you'll be able to high roll them. It's a really fun deck. I love aggro strategies because I get to turn my brain off and just smash security, so I always have a lot of fun with these kind of decks. And Imperialdramon, Paildramon are just some of the coolest Digimon in the O2 series for me, so I love this deck and I can't wait to be playing it. Let me know what you think of it, let me know if you're spicy techs in Imperialdramon, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you found this video helpful, and until the next video, remember to stay hungry until you get a taste of victory.